Hi, welcome back. I'm Tara Palmeri. Last night, CNN asked me to appear on their programs to take questions from Americans about Jeffrey Epstein because I'm an expert on this story. I investigated it for many years. I traveled all over the country with Virginia Roberts Giuffre to try to corroborate her story. I've spoken to many victims. I've been investigating this for many years for two podcasts, Power the Maxwells and Broken Jeffrey Epstein. We started the conversation talking about the political pressure that President Trump is feeling from his base over the files or lack thereof, and how redacted files, memos that don't have much information, grand jury testimony, this piecemeal process, it's just not working. They were promised the full Monty, and this isn't going away until they get it. So, this story has been so shrouded in mystery, even for someone like me who's been covering it for so long. And the person I have a really hard time wrapping my head around is Ghislaine Maxwell and what her strategy has been all along in terms of staying silent. She's a very shrewd operative. She's a secretive person. If you know anything about her father, Robert Maxwell, who was the press baron who owned the New York Daily News and the Daily Mirror, and who was thought to be Mossad, died mysteriously like Jeffrey Epstein off the side of a boat called Lady Ghislaine after his favorite daughter, thought to be a suicide, maybe death, sounds familiar, right? Then you'll understand that she's the Bonnie and Clyde in this operation. She knows a lot. In fact, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, they used, blackmail against these Johns. And so she kept secrets. She's got information. This was how it worked. It was so simple. You set up these people and you get blackmail on them and you say, give me your money. I'm a financier. Jeffrey Epstein was not the greatest financier. He was a high school math teacher. Come on. How could he be worth almost $1 billion? And this is how they worked. So of course she is sitting on troves and troves of information. But during the trial, she wasn't going to speak because she is not a sympathetic defendant. I mean, the jury would look at her and be like, she's posh. She used her elegance, her status, her wealth, her education to lure young girls in as young as 12, 13 years old at high schools, at malls, at movie theaters, Virginia, at Mar-a-Lago, to then lure them in and then let Jeffrey Epstein take advantage of them so that he could fulfill his 3 orgasm per day desires or needs, as she would say. And so no way would a jury be interested in what she had to say. Plus, she could never handle a cross-examination. But what about now? Now that her case is on appeal, does it mean it's time for Ghislaine Maxwell to talk? I always assumed that maybe it had something to do with being on appeal. And maybe, they're going before the Supreme Court. I'm sure it will be thrown out. But maybe this sort of information might help her commute her sentence. But that would only be if they're actually interested in pursuing the case. So I was really surprised on Tuesday morning to wake up to hear the Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, say that he's willing to talk to Ghislaine Maxwell if she has information to share. It's a big if. I actually want to quote him. If Ghislaine Maxwell has information about anyone who has committed crimes against victims, the FBI and the DOJ will hear what she has to say. Again, if. I talked to someone yesterday who used to work for the SDNY as a prosecutor, and they said most likely they'll claim that Ghislaine is an unreliable witness because she is a criminal. Ghislaine will also claim that she was a victim, like a lot of other recruiters have. And she'll claim that she was innocent, like a lot of criminals do. Is she even reliable? I don't know. But thinking politically, is this just the Trump administration trying to show that they're doing something to make the story go away? They can say, we looked into it. Ghislaine's not credible. She didn't give us anything. Nothing to see here. And then there's other questions I have. If she's granted immunity, like some people have suggested that she should be to testify, granted immunity from further prosecution, will she actually open up? And what's in it for her? Because this will only be about what's in it for her. Believe me, she does not care about justice. Will it help commute her prison sentence, this 20-year prison sentence? Is it more powerful for her to just hold on to these secrets than to share them? If she says the right thing, she doesn't implicate President Trump in any way, that might be enough for a wink, wink, nod, nod for her to get a pardon at the end of his term. He did say, I wish her well, which was very weird. There's something inside of me based on what I know about Ghislaine Maxwell. I did a podcast on her father, Power the Maxwells, and the other one, Broken Jeffrey Epstein, is that she and Jeffrey thought they were invincible. They wouldn't have carried out this massive sex trafficking operation in broad daylight if they didn't think so. And I believe that she does not think that she will serve 20 years in prison, much like I don't think that Jeffrey Epstein thought he would serve any time in 2019. He didn't have to in 2028, so why would he have to in 2019? They thought, we blackmail people, we keep their secrets, we have power. Is keeping the secret the power? Something to think about, right? So this is all stuff that I've been trying to understand. And I think we'll see what happens, how it all plays out. But if there's one thing I know about Ghislaine, she likely has some cards up her sleeve, and that's why she's been silent all along. Leave your questions in the comments. You can even leave your theories a little bit. I mean, I don't like to play conspiracy theories in this game. I'm all about the facts. I've been working on some investigations on this. It takes time. Investigative journalism takes time. But I do have a lot of questions, and I figured I could share them with you, just like we all have questions, right? Leave your comments here, and I'll be doing a lot more TV appearances this week. Take a listen to the CNN interview here. I am interested in taking America's questions. I know this case really well. I can answer some of them in the comments, or we could just do a follow-up live. And I think we could probably do a live tomorrow. So maybe around noon, I'll jump back in and we can do a YouTube live and you can do even more questions. Thanks, guys.
Let's begin with the author of The Red Letter on Substack, Tara Palmeri. Tara, Congressman Massey, I mean, he is not backing down. But you do know Speaker Johnson has stalled that House, so the no vote is going to happen on the files or anytime soon. So where do you see this all going? I mean, what's the next move for MAGA?
I just don't think that they will back down until they see something real. And if they provide what they provided during phase one, which is essentially redacted files that were already in the public domain in the FBI vault, they're going to get even angrier and angrier. And so if you just keep feeding them the things that they don't want, they're going to react. And this is just not the way that you handle this situation. And even punting it, it's just dragging it out longer and longer and longer. This is something that is a unique situation for President Trump because he's usually able to create a crisis that allows him to move on from the last one. But this is something that people have been waiting for years, and it impacts all types of people and a lot of apolitical people. A lot of his MAGA followers, they do believe in him, but a lot of them are independents, gadflies, there's something about them that makes them distrust authority. That's why they've been so drawn to President Trump. And now that they're in office, now that they are the government, they're saying we're the government, trust us. But for so long they said they're the government, don't trust them. So it's very conflicting to everything that he's ever said before.
Yeah.
And I think it shows President Trump in a league of elites above them.
You really can't have your cake and eat it too. It can't be, listen, don't believe in the government, and now I'm the government, but I'm an exception to the rule. People don't really operate that way, especially if the seed has been planted and watered over years. But you also have one of Jeffrey Epstein's accusers, Maria Farmer is her name. She spoke out on CNN tonight, and she was saying that she ran into Donald Trump in Epstein's office, and Epstein told him, she's not here for you, in reference to her. Now, she didn't allege any criminal action by Trump at that time. And to be clear, Trump has never been the target of an investigation, or has he been, in this instance, or charged in relation to Epstein. But this story, of course, is that the sort of detail that would likely maybe appear in a file that people are clamoring to see, even if it doesn't actually implicate him, the presence alone?
Yeah, I think it would certainly bolster the narrative that they were very close friends for a very long period of time, to the point that during the height of Epstein's sex trafficking operation, Donald Trump was very much around. At the very least, a lot of the girls remember meeting him. Virginia Giuffre Roberts remembers meeting him. A lot of Maria Farmer remembers meeting him. A lot of the women remember meeting him. I have never personally interviewed a victim, even though I've worked on this story for many years, that was assaulted by him. But there are women who said that they were Jane Does. They came forward and then they rescinded their complaints. We don't know why, but this is just not a good narrative to be associated with. And he's made public statements about Jeffrey Epstein. He said that he loves young women publicly. It's just the more you put out there, the more associates you put out there, the narrative, it would reveal to people how Epstein operated, how closely interconnected he was with these elites, and how much they really did not care about these girls, and how they were just party favored.
I mean,
tissues,
just thinking about that phrase,
that
disposable party favors, that makes your stomach turn to think about the implications of that.
Yeah.
Just by the way, what you said is one of the reasons why many lawyers and judges don't want certain testimony, even the grand jury, to be released in general because of the tarring and feathering and the assumptions and the intimations that are always going to be made in instances like this. I want you to stick around, please, though, Tara, because our viewers, they have a ton of questions about the fallout from the files. You're going to help us answer them later in the show for a special Epstein edition of America Asks. That's where you get to join in and ask your burning questions. How do you do it? You go to cnn.com/Epstein questions tonight. Well, joining me. No, you're not imagining things if you've noticed that interest in Jeffrey Epstein has literally skyrocketed in recent weeks. I mean, look at just what's been happening ever since this issue began to plague the White House. One book on Epstein is now completely out of stock. Viewership for the Netflix docuseries on Epstein has surged by more than 250%. And Google Trends show an uptick in Epstein-related searches. We know that you all have questions out there as well, and we're here to answer them. So it's time now for America Asks. Tara Palmeri is back with us. She's reported extensively on the Epstein case for years. Okay, so Tara, work with me here. We've got a question from Herb from California asking, with Epstein dead and unable to confirm or deny the existence of a list or Trump's involvement in the scandal, couldn't Ghislaine Maxwell offer some new insight?
Absolutely. Ghislaine Maxwell could offer a lot of insight. I wondered why she hasn't used that information in some sort of at least sentencing bargaining or plea bargain or in some way to sort of shorten the term, which is 20 years. And I assumed that she was maybe using that information or holding on to it for a later date, but her case is on appeal right now before the Supreme Court, but she'll lose. I think it's almost useless, but Ghislaine Maxwell, she kept people's secrets. That's what she did. She was very shrewd. I think she assumes that she won't serve the entire term. She could be pardoned.
Well, so, you're right. I mean, the appellate process is not yet exhausted. And that actually leads me to the next question from Christine from Ohio. Tara, this actually dovetails perfectly because she asks, when Maxwell was tried and convicted, why didn't any names come out at that time? Could it have lowered her sentence?
Well, it wasn't a case against the Johns. It was a case against her. And so they had to keep it targeted towards her. And just weeks ago, before we were all told case closed, no third parties would be prosecuted by the Justice Department, I had talked to senior law enforcement officials who told me that they were working on cases, that there were active cases against Johns, and that they were worried that if they put out those files, that it would make it more difficult for them to prosecute. And then they also didn't want to be able to reopen the Ghislaine Maxwell case with prejudicial information. Now, did they mean it? It's hard to say.
Yeah.
It may have been over their head, but to shut it down. But that was what I was told. But clearly those cases are not moving forward anymore.
Well, Carol from Pennsylvania asked this question. Aren't MAGA supporters worried that Trump will be in the Epstein files?
He is in the Epstein files. He is. He's in the black book. Those are the files. He is mentioned in the files. He's visited he's in the flight logs. He's visited he's everywhere. Now, when you say in the files, do you mean that there will be a Jane Doe who says that she was assaulted by him, or that he will have a number, like a John Doe name in the files? I don't know that, but from the public files that we've seen in the vault, he's in there. He's everywhere. He's also publicly everywhere with Jeffrey Epstein.
Well, we'll see how it all unfolds. Of course, many questions still linger. Tara, thanks for sticking around.
Thank you.
My sisters and I didn't have.
Thanks for listening to the Tara Palmeri Show. I want to thank my producer, Eric Abinate, my booker, Jane Fusco, and my team of researchers, Abby Baker and Luke Radel, and my social media manager, Sarah Carney. If you like this show, please follow it, subscribe, leave a written review. I'd really appreciate that, and share it with your friends. You can get more of my independent reporting by going to tarapalmeri.com and signing up for my newsletter, The Red Letter. It'll come straight to your inbox, and if you become a paid subscriber, it's a way to support my independent journalism. I'll be back again soon.